A faithful dog refuses to leave her owner's grave, and the reason behind this act will thrill you. What has been discovered will leave everyone speechless. Do you want to know the secret behind this unwavering loyalty? Find out now. The autumn sky wept softly over Central Park, its tears mingling with those of the mourners gathered around a fresh grave. The air was heavy with the smell of rain-soaked earth and wilted flowers, a somber setting for the final farewell of Alex Winters, a young artist whose vibrant creations had once brought color to the streets of New York City. At the foot of the grave was Daisy, a golden retriever with soulful brown eyes that seemed to contain all the sadness in the world. Her tail, usually a metronome of joy, lay motionless against the damp grass. As the priest's words faded into the mist, Daisy let out a soft, sad moan that touched the hearts of everyone present. Tom Reeves, Alex's best friend and fellow artist, knelt beside Daisy, his hand resting gently on her fur. "It's time to go, girl," he whispered, his voice laced with emotion. But Daisy stood firm, her gaze fixed on the mound of earth that now separated her from her beloved owner. As the mourners began to disperse, their black umbrellas bobbing like solemn buoys in a sea of sadness, Daisy's resistance increased. She stuck her paws in the mud, refusing to move, even when Tom tried to persuade her with kind words and the promise of treats. "She won't leave him," murmured Elena, Alex's elderly neighbor, her face wrinkled and full of worry. "That dog loved Alex more than anything in the world." Tom nodded, a knot forming in his throat. Alex was his whole world. They were inseparable from the day he rescued her from the shelter. While the cemetery was quiet, apart from the sound of the rain and Daisy's occasional moans, a small group remained in place. They were the colors of Alex's palette, friends, neighbors, and fellow artists who had been touched by his kindness and inspired by his creativity. Among them was Olivia Chen, a local journalist whose eyes shone with unshed tears and the spark of a story that was unfolding. She watched as Daisy snuggled into the fresh earth, leaving muddy paw prints on the pristine white roses that adorned the grave. "We can't just leave her here," Olivia said, her voice just above a whisper. "It's not safe, and it's not what Alex would want." Tom ran a hand through his rain-soaked hair, conflicted. "I know, but look at her. How can we force her to leave?" As if in answer, Daisy let out another moan, her eyes moving from the tomb to the small group and back again. At that moment, there was a silent understanding between the humans and the grieving canine, a promise to honor Alex's memory and take care of those he left behind. "Let's take turns," Elena suggested, her voice growing stronger with determination. "We'll look after her, bring food and water. This park was Alex's second home. It's only fair that Daisy stays close to him." As the group nodded in agreement, the rain began to ease, and a faint ray of sunshine broke through the clouds. It illuminated Daisy's golden hair, creating a halo effect that seemed almost otherworldly. At that moment, surrounded by the beauty of Central Park and the love of Alex's chosen family, Daisy's vigil began, a testament to the unbreakable bond between a man and his dog, and the start of a journey that would touch the hearts of an entire community. As dawn broke in Central Park, the first rays of sunlight illuminated Daisy's golden fur, still damp from the previous day's rain. She hadn't strayed far from Alex's grave, her loyalty a silent testament to a bond that transcended mortality. Tom approached, carrying a bowl of water and feed, his heart heavy with the weight of responsibility. "Hey, girl," he said softly, placing the offerings in front of her. "You need to eat something." Daisy's eyes, pools of sadness, met Tom's gaze. She smelled the food, but made no move to eat. Instead, she let out a low moan, her tail thumping once against the earth. As Tom sat down next to her, gently stroking her fur, he noticed a young woman running nearby. She slowed down, then stopped, her curiosity piqued by the unusual scene. "Is everything all right?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Tom sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "This is Daisy. She belonged to my friend Alex, who we buried yesterday. She doesn't want to leave his grave." The runner's eyes widened with recognition. "My God, is that the dog everyone's talking about on social media?" Tom nodded in surprise. "What do you mean?" "Someone posted a photo of it last night. It went viral. People are calling her the modern Hachiko." As if on cue, Thomas's cell phone vibrated with notifications. He picked it up and saw that his social media feeds were flooded with shares and comments about Daisy and Alex. The story of the loyal dog who refused to leave her owner's grave had touched people across the city and beyond. Throughout the day, a steady stream of visitors came to Alex's grave. Some brought flowers, others left snacks or toys for Daisy. Children approached with hand-drawn pictures, and their parents explained in hushed tones about love and loss. Olivia arrived in the afternoon, her journalist instincts in full swing. She watched as people from all walks of life gathered around Daisy, sharing stories and offering each other comfort. "It's amazing," she murmured to Tom. "Alex's death is bringing the community together in a way I've never seen before." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Elena appeared with a group of local artists. They carried canvases, paints, and brushes, their faces a mixture of determination and sadness. "We want to do something," Elena explained, her voice trembling with emotion. "To honor Alex and Daisy. We thought, maybe a mural." Tom's eyes lit up for the first time since Alex's death. "That's perfect. Alex would have loved that." As the artists began sketching ideas, a small crowd gathered to watch. The park, which was usually closed by this time, was buzzing with a new energy. People shared memories of Alex, swapped stories about their own pets, and discussed how they could help Daisy. Amidst the growing crowd, Mr. Johnson, an elderly widower who lived opposite the park, approached Daisy with slow, careful steps. He knelt down beside her, his arthritic joints protesting, and began to speak in a low, soft voice. "I know how you feel, girl," he said, his aged hand gently patting her head. "I lost my Martha 2 years ago. Some days, the pain is still as fresh as it was yesterday, but you know what? A love like that never really dies." By nightfall, the park was lit by candles and the soft light of phone screens as people shared Daisy's story. Tom looked around in wonder, realizing that, in her grief, Daisy had become a catalyst for something beautiful, a reminder of the power of love and the strength of community in the face of loss. The morning sun cast long shadows on Central Park, illuminating Daisy's golden fur, which lay faithfully beside Alex's grave. The air was filled with the hum of early risers and the soft rustle of leaves, a stark contrast to the gloomy atmosphere that had settled over the park in recent days. Olivia Chen arrived early, journalist notebook in hand, ready to record the unfolding story that had captivated the city. She found Tom already there, setting up an easel near the gravesite. "Good morning," Olivia called softly, careful not to disturb Daisy. "You're early." Tom looked up, his eyes watery with tiredness, but shining with purpose. "I couldn't sleep," he admitted. "I thought I'd start drawing the mural." As Tom drew, his charcoal flying across the canvas, Olivia sat nearby, watching the growing crowd of visitors. People from all walks of life approached Daisy, leaving offerings and sharing stories of their own experiences with loss and loyalty. One little girl, no more than 7 years old, tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, can I give Daisy my teddy bear, so she doesn't feel lonely?" The mother nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. When the child placed the beloved stuffed animal next to Daisy, the dog's tail thumped once on the floor, a small acknowledgement that thrilled everyone present. Mr. Johnson arrived, his cane tapping a steady rhythm on the park path. He settled down on a nearby bench, his aged eyes fixed on Daisy. "You know," he said to no one in particular, "Alex once painted a portrait of my late wife. He said her smile reminded him of sunlight breaking through storm clouds." Olivia's pen flew into her notebook, capturing the poignant moment. She approached Mr. Johnson, drawn by the depth of emotion in his voice. "Would you mind telling me more about Alex and his art?" As Mr. Johnson shared his memories, more people gathered, eager to contribute their own stories. A tapestry of Alex's life began to emerge, woven with the threads of countless lives he had touched. "He taught art classes at the community center," said a middle-aged woman. "He showed us how to see the beauty in everyday life." "Alex painted murals in the pediatric ward of the hospital," added another. "He said that every child deserved a window to a brighter world." Tom paused in his drawing, overwhelmed by the amount of memories. He hadn't realized the far-reaching impact Alex had made. Daisy, sensing the change in energy, lifted her head and her soulful eyes scanned the growing crowd. As the day wore on, the park became a living memorial. Children sprawled on the grass, creating colorful chalk drawings inspired by Alex's style. Local musicians organized impromptu performances, their melodies spreading through the air like threads of hope. Elena arrived with a group of Alex's former students, their arms laden with canvases. "We thought we'd do a small exhibition," she explained, her voice heavy with emotion, "to show the world the beauty that Alex saw in her." As the makeshift gallery took shape, Olivia found herself drawn to one painting in particular, a vibrant cityscape with a golden retriever in the foreground, its eyes reflecting the lights of New York City. "That's one of his last works," Tom said softly, coming to her side. "He called it My Guiding Light." Olivia's breath caught in her throat. "It's Daisy, isn't it?" Tom nodded, his eyes misting. Alex always said that Daisy saved him as much as he saved her. She was his anchor, his muse. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, the community joined together in mourning and celebration. Daisy, surrounded by love and memories, let out a soft moan that seemed to echo the bittersweet mood. In that moment, when strangers became friends and sadness gave way to hope, it was clear that Alex's legacy would live on, not just in his art, but in the hearts of those he touched, and in the unwavering loyalty of a dog who refused to let go. When the first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Central Park came alive. Daisy, ever faithful, remained at her post beside Alex's grave, her golden fur catching the morning light. Tom approached, his arms laden with art materials, determination etched on his face. "Good morning, girl," he murmured, dropping his burden and giving Daisy a gentle pat. "Today is a great day." As the sun rose, people began to arrive in the park. Word of the community mural project had spread, and volunteers of all ages arrived, eager to contribute. Elena orchestrated the chaos with the practiced ease of an experienced artist, assigning tasks and distributing supplies. Olivia moved through the growing crowd, her journalist instincts on high alert. She paused to watch a group of children dipping their hands into the paint, laughing as they placed colorful prints on a section of the mural dedicated to Alex's work with the children. "It's like a living, breathing thing," Olivia thought aloud, pen flying across her notebook. "It's exactly what Alex would have wanted," replied Tom, taking a step back to observe the progress. "He always said that art should be alive, that it should connect people." As the day wore on, the mural began to take shape. Vibrant cityscapes reminiscent of Alex's style blended perfectly with portraits of community members, and, of course, Daisy. The golden retriever watched the proceedings with curious eyes, her tail occasionally thumping the ground when someone approached to offer a kind word or a gentle pat. Mr. Johnson arrived around noon, his cane tapping in a steady rhythm. He stopped in front of the mural, his eyes watering. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. Alex would have loved it. A young woman nearby, her hands stained with paint, overheard him. "How well did you know Alex?" she asked. Mr. Johnson nodded, a wistful smile on his lips. "He painted a portrait of my late wife. He said her smile was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds." He paused, chuckling slightly. "I didn't believe him until I saw the finished work. Somehow, he had captured not only her likeness, but her spirit." As Mr. Johnson told more stories about Alex, a small crowd gathered around him. Olivia listened intently, her pen flying across the page as she captured the poignant moments. Meanwhile, Tom worked tirelessly on the centerpiece of the mural, a larger-than-life portrait of Alex and Daisy. With each stroke, he poured his pain, love, and memories onto the canvas. Passers-by stopped to watch, mesmerized by the raw emotion evident in every line and color. As the afternoon sun began to descend, casting long shadows across the park, Elena caught everyone's attention. "We're almost finished," she announced, her voice carrying through the bustling crowd. "But there's one final touch we need." All eyes turned to Daisy, who had stood firmly by Alex's grave all day. Elena approached her slowly, with a small container of paint in her hand. "What do you think, girl? Do you want to leave your mark?" For a moment, Daisy hesitated, her gaze fixed on the grave. Then, as if making a decision, she stood up and walked over to Elena. With gentle guidance, Daisy's paw pressed into the paint and then onto the mural, right next to Alex's portrait. The crowd fell silent, and the significance of the moment did not go unnoticed by anyone. Daisy's paw print, a symbol of unwavering loyalty and love, completed the mural in a way that no human hand could have done. As the sun set below the horizon, bathing the park in a warm, golden glow, the community stood back to admire her work. The mural was more than just paint on a wall. It was a testament to the power of art, love and community to heal and unite. Daisy, feeling the shift in energy, let out a soft moan. For the first time since Alex's death, she moved away from the tomb and sat down next to Tom. When he knelt down to hug her, tears streaming down his face, it felt like the first step towards healing. For Daisy, for Tom, and for the whole community. The morning mist clung to Central Park like a spider's veil, enveloping the newly completed mural in an ethereal glow. Daisy, her golden fur damp with dew, stood next to Tom on a nearby bench. For the first time since Alex's death, she allowed herself to be persuaded away from the grave, even if only for a moment. Olivia approached, 2 steaming cups of coffee in her hand. She passed one to Tom, who gratefully accepted it. "How are you doing?" she asked, her voice soft and concerned. Tom sighed, his gaze fixed on the mural. "It's strange. I feel like I see Alex everywhere, but at the same time, the loss, it's like a void that nothing can fill." As they sat in pleasant silence, the park slowly came to life around them. Runners stopped mid-run to admire the mural, while dog walkers stopped to pay their respects to Daisy, now something of a local celebrity. Mr. Johnson arrived, his familiar cane tapping a steady rhythm on the path. He settled down beside them, his aged eyes shining with a mixture of sadness and affection. "You know," he began, his voice hoarse with emotion, "seeing all this reminds me of when I first met Alex." Tom and Olivia leaned in, eager to hear more about their friend. Even Daisy's ears perked up at the mention of Alex's name. "It was just after my Martha died," continued Mr. Johnson. "I was in a dark place, barely leaving the house. One day I forced myself to take a walk in the park, and there was Alex, with his easel, painting the most vibrant sunset I'd ever seen." He paused, a wistful smile on his lips. "I must have been a spectacle, because Alex looked at me and said, 'Sir, would you mind very much if I painted your portrait? There's a story in your eyes that needs to be told.' As Mr. Johnson told the story of how Alex's kindness and art had lifted him from the depths of sadness, a small crowd began to gather. People were drawn not only by the story, but by the palpable emotion in the old man's voice. "He had a gift," said a woman in the crowd, "not just for painting, but for seeing the beauty in broken things." Tom nodded, his throat tight with emotion. That was Alex. He always said that art wasn't about perfection, but about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. As the morning progressed, more people arrived, each with their own story to share. The park became a tapestry of memories, woven together by the threads of Alex's impact on the community. Olivia, with her journalist instincts on high alert, began to see a pattern emerging. "It's not just about Alex," she thought aloud. "It's about how his art has connected people, how it has healed wounds and bridged divides." Tom looked at her, with a spark of inspiration in his eyes. "You're right. And maybe that's how we'll keep his legacy alive." As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, an idea began to take shape. Tom, energized by a sense of purpose, began to draw furiously in his notebook. "What if we turned this into something bigger?" he asked, his voice gaining strength. "Not just a memorial, but a movement. Art classes for children, community projects, a space where people can get together and create, like Alex always wanted." The idea spread through the gathered crowd like wildfire, igniting hope and enthusiasm. Even Daisy seemed to perk up, wagging her tail for the first time in days. As the chapter of mourning began to give way to a chapter of renewal, the mural became a testament to Alex's enduring spirit. In the heart of New York City, amidst the hustle and bustle, a community had found its soul, united by the power of art and the unbreakable bonds of love and loyalty. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on Central Park, painting the mural in warm, golden tones. Tom stood in front of it, his eyes tracing the vibrant brushstrokes that captured Alex's spirit. Next to him, Daisy sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the image of her former owner. "It's really happening, isn't it?" Olivia's voice broke Tom's reverie. She approached, notepad in hand, eyes bright with excitement. Tom nodded, a small smile on his lips. "The community center called. They agree with our idea of art classes and workshops. They said it aligns perfectly with their mission." While they were discussing the details, a group of local artists arrived, led by Elena. The air was buzzing with creative energy as they gathered around Tom, eager to contribute to the growing vision. "We're brainstorming," Elena began, her eyes shining. "What if we expanded beyond art classes? We could have music workshops, poetry readings, and even a small theater group." The ideas flowed freely, each suggestion building on the previous one. Tom felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced since Alex's death. It was hope, he realized, mixed with a sense of purpose. As the group chatted animatedly, Mr. Johnson approached, his cane tapping in a familiar rhythm. "I couldn't help overhearing," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. I'd like to contribute." All eyes turned to the elderly man, their curiosity piqued. Mr. Johnson cleared his throat, suddenly embarrassed. "I was a literature teacher before I retired. Perhaps I could lead a book club. Alex always said that stories are just another art form." The suggestion was met with enthusiastic nods and words of encouragement. Tom placed a gentle hand on Mr. Johnson's shoulder, touched by the older man's willingness to step out of his comfort zone. As the sun set lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, the group's excitement was palpable. They had moved from mourning to action, turning pain into a force for positive change. Olivia, who was scribbling furiously on her notepad, looked up with a thoughtful expression. "You know, this is bigger than just honoring Alex's memory. It's about creating a lasting impact, building connections in the community." Tom nodded, his gaze turning to Daisy, who had taken a seat at the base of the mural. "Alex always believed that art had the power to heal, to bring people together. I think he'd be proud of what we're doing." As if on cue, a little girl approached Daisy, her small hand outstretched. The golden retriever, who had been wary of strangers since Alex's death, gently stroked the child's palm. The little girl's laughter rang out, a sound of pure joy that seemed to lift everyone's spirits. "Look at that," murmured Elena, her voice full of emotion. "Even Daisy is starting to heal." As the group dispersed, making plans to meet again and develop their ideas, Tom stood next to the mural. The dim light captured the vibrant colors, making them appear shimmering and dancing. For a moment, he could almost see Alex standing there, paintbrush in hand, and a mischievous glint in his eyes. "We're doing this, buddy," whispered Tom, his voice almost inaudible. "We're keeping your dream alive." As night fell over Central Park, the mural stood like a beacon of hope and creativity. And in its shadow, a community was coming together, united by their love for a man who had touched their lives through his art and their determination to carry on his legacy. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of possibility as Tom walked through Central Park. The mural, now a familiar landmark, seemed to glow in the early morning light. Daisy trotted along beside him, her steps lighter than they had been in weeks. As they approached, Tom noticed a small group gathered near the mural. Curious, he picked up his pace and Daisy followed. "Good morning," said Olivia, waving to them. "You're just in time. We have some exciting news." Thomas's eyes widened as he recognized the man standing next to Olivia, Richard Hawthorne, a prominent local businessman known for his philanthropy. Richard stepped forward, his hand outstretched. "Mr. Reeves, it's a pleasure to meet you," he said, in a warm and sincere voice. "I've heard a lot about your community art initiative. I must say I'm impressed." As they shook hands, Tom felt a surge of hope. "Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne. We're just trying to keep Alex's spirit alive." Richard nodded, his eyes scanning the mural. "And you're doing a remarkable job. In fact, that's why I'm here. I'd like to offer my support." The next hour passed in a flurry of discussion. Richard proposed not only funding the art classes and workshops, but also renovating an old building near the park to serve as a permanent community art center. "We could call it the Alex Winters Memorial Art Center," Richard suggested, his eyes watering with enthusiasm. a place where creativity and community can flourish. As the group discussed logistics and plans, more people began to gather. Word spread quickly, and soon the area around the mural was buzzing with excitement. Mr. Johnson arrived, a little out of breath, but beaming. "I've just heard the news," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "This is exactly what our neighborhood needs." Elena, who was discreetly sketching ideas for the layout of the center, looked at him with a smile. "It's more than that," she said softly. "It's a legacy. A way of ensuring that Alex's impact continues to grow." As the morning wore on, the park became a hub of activity. Local artists began brainstorming program ideas, while the children enthusiastically discussed what they hoped to learn at the new center. In the midst of the excitement, Tom felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. He looked down and saw a boy of no more than 10 staring at him with wide eyes. "Excuse me, sir," said the boy, his voice just above a whisper. "Is it true? Are we really going to have art classes here?" Tom knelt down and looked at the child. "We certainly are. Would you like that?" The boy nodded enthusiastically. "My mom says I'm too restless for regular school, but I love to draw. Maybe I could be good at art." Tom felt his throat constrict with emotion. "I bet you'd be great at it," he said, ruffling the boy's hair carefully. As he stood up, Tom caught Olivia's eye. She was watching the interaction with a soft expression. "That's it, isn't it?" she said quietly. "That's how we change lives. One stroke at a time." Tom nodded, unable to speak after feeling a lump in his throat. He looked at Daisy, who was now surrounded by a group of children, her tail wagging happily for the first time in weeks. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its warm glow over the park, Tom felt a sense of peace settle over him. The pain was still there, a dull ache in his chest, but along with it was something new, a sense of purpose, of hope, of community. In that moment, as laughter and animated conversation filled the air, Tom knew that Alex's spirit lived on, not just in the memories or the painting, but in the hearts and minds of all those who had been touched by his art and his vision. The Alex Winters Memorial Art Center was buzzing with activity as the crisp autumn air gave way to the chill of winter. Tom stood in the doorway, amazed at the transformation. What had once been an abandoned building now pulsed with life and color. Inside, the children huddled around the easels, their faces screwed up in concentration as they tried to capture the essence of Daisy, who patiently served as their model. The golden retriever had become a sort of mascot for the center, her gentle presence a comfort to all who entered. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Olivia's voice snapped Tom out of his reverie. She was standing next to him, notepad in hand, eyes bright with excitement. Tom nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Alex would have loved that. As they walked through the center, they passed Mr. Johnson's book club, where lively discussions about classic literature filled the air. In another room, Elena was leading a group of teenagers in a mural painting workshop, and their collective work of art was a riot of color and emotion. "Tom! Olivia!" Richard Hawthorne's thunderous voice echoed through the main hall. The businessman approached, his face covered in smiles. "I've just spoken to the mayor. She's incredibly impressed with what we've accomplished here." Before Tom could reply, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A group of people were gathered around a newcomer, murmuring excitedly. "Is that—" Olivia breathed, her eyes widening in recognition. Tom squeezed his eyes shut and felt his heart beat faster. It can't be. But it was. Making her way through the crowd was none other than Michelle Rodriguez, the famous actress known for her philanthropic work. She approached Tom with her hand out. "Mr. Reeves, I'm Michelle Rodriguez. I heard about what you're doing here and I had to see for myself." As Tom shook her hand, still incredulous, Michelle continued, "I was friends with Alex. We met at an art therapy program for at-risk youth in Los Angeles. He always talked about his desire to create a space like this in New York. The next hour passed in a whirlwind of performances and tours. Michelle toured the center, interacting with the children, praising their artwork and sharing stories about Alex that even Tom hadn't heard. At the end of the day, Tom found himself back in the lobby, watching Michelle kneel down to stroke Daisy. The dog, normally reserved with strangers, immediately approached the actress, wagging her tail furiously. She knows a friend of Alex's, thought Mr. Johnson, coming to Tom's side. Dogs have a way of sensing these things. Tom nodded, feeling a familiar pain in his chest, but this time it was accompanied by a warmth he couldn't explain. When the last visitors had left, Michelle approached Tom once again. "I'd like to help," she said, her voice full of determination. "Not just with funds, but with my time. I want to get involved in the programs here, maybe even teach some acting workshops." Tom felt overwhelmed by the offer, but before he could respond, Olivia jumped in. That would be amazing. Imagine the impact it could have on these kids. As they discussed the possibilities, Tom's gaze drifted to the large mural that dominated one wall of the main hall. It was a recreation of Alex's last painting, entitled My Guiding Light. In it, Daisy stood proudly, her eyes reflecting the vibrant lights of New York City. At that moment, Tom realized that Alex's legacy had grown far beyond what either of them could have imagined. It was no longer just about art. It was about community, about healing, about finding light in the darkest moments. As the sun set outside, casting long shadows through the windows, Tom felt a sense of peace. The center was full of potential, with dreams waiting to be realized. And at its heart, guiding them all, was the spirit of a man who believed in the power of art to change lives. The Alex Winters Memorial Art Center was buzzing with anticipation when the day of the grand opening arrived. Snowflakes danced outside the windows, adding a touch of magic to the already electric atmosphere. Tom stood in the center of the main hall, his heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. Olivia approached, her notebook under her arm. "The mayor has just arrived," she said, her eyes shining, "and you won't believe who's with her." Before Tom could ask, the doors opened, revealing not only the mayor, but a host of celebrities and influential figures. Michelle Rodriguez led the pack, her presence drawing enthusiastic whispers from the assembled crowd. As the visitors made their way around the center, Tom found himself caught up in a whirlwind of introductions and congratulations. However, in the midst of the chaos, his eyes strayed to the corner where Daisy was sitting, her tail swaying gently as she watched the proceedings with curious eyes. "She's still the heart of this place, isn't she?" Mr. Johnson's voice interrupted Tom's thoughts. The elderly man was standing next to him, his eyes misty with emotion. Tom nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Alex would be proud of her, of all this. As the tour continued, Tom heard snippets of conversation that made his heart fill with pride. Children eagerly showed their works of art to the visiting dignitaries, while teenagers explained the themes behind their murals with newfound confidence. In the literature corner, Mr. Johnson held court, his eyes twinkling as he discussed the transformative power of storytelling with a group of enthralled listeners. Nearby, Elena led a hands-on painting workshop, her gentle instructions awakening the artist and even the most hesitant participants. As the day wore on, Tom found himself drawn to the wall where Alex's latest painting hung. My Guiding Light seemed to glow in the soft lighting, Daisy's painted eyes reflecting a world of possibilities. "It's beautiful," said a soft voice beside him. Tom turned to find Michelle Rodriguez standing there, her eyes fixed on the painting. Alex always had a way of capturing the essence of a moment. Tom nodded, unable to speak beyond the lump in his throat. Michelle placed a gentle hand on his arm. "You've done something incredible here, Tom. You've taken Alex's vision and turned it into reality." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the windows, the mayor caught everyone's eye. She stood on a small platform, her face beaming with pride. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice sounding clear and strong, "what we are witnessing here today is nothing short of a miracle. This center is more than just a building. It is a testament to the power of community, art, and love." As she talked about the impact the center would have on the community, Tom felt a warmth run through his chest. He looked around at the faces of the people gathered, the children with paint-stained cheeks, the teenagers standing tall with newfound confidence, the elderly customers with tears in their eyes. At that moment, Tom realized that they had created something much bigger than an art center. They had built a home for dreams, a sanctuary for healing, a place where Alex's spirit lived on in every brushstroke and every smile. As the applause died down and people began to mingle once more, Tom felt a gentle nudge on his leg. He looked down and saw Daisy, her tail swaying gently. Kneeling beside her, he wrapped his arms around her furry neck, burying his face in her soft fur. "We did it, girl," he whispered, his voice heavy with emotion. "We kept your dream alive." And while the snow continued to fall outside, blanketing the world in a soft white glow, the Alex Winters Memorial Art Center stood as a beacon of hope and creativity, a living testament to the enduring power of love and the transformative magic of art. A year had passed since the grand opening of the Alex Winters Memorial Art Center, and the crisp autumn air brought with it a sense of anticipation. Tom stood at the entrance, watching the people from all walks of life coming in, their faces full of excitement. Today was more than just a birthday celebration. It was a testament to the power of community, art, and the lasting legacy of a man who had touched so many lives. Olivia approached, her trusty notebook in hand. "Can you believe it's already been a year?" she asked, her eyes shining with emotion. Tom shook his head, a slight smile on his lips. "Sometimes it seems like yesterday, and other times—" His words trailed off when he saw Daisy, now a permanent fixture in the center. The golden retriever sat patiently while a group of children took turns to stroke her, her tail wagging gently. Inside, the center was buzzing with activity. Mr. Johnson's book club had been transformed into a literature program complete with lectures by renowned authors. In the main hall, Elena was overseeing the placement of a huge collaborative mural, a project that involved all members of the community. As Tom made his rounds, he overheard snippets of conversation that made his heart fill with pride. "Did you hear? Jesse has been accepted into art school. My son hasn't missed a single day of the after-school program. He says it's the best part of his day. I never thought I'd pick up a paintbrush at my age, but now I can't imagine my life without it." Michelle Rodriguez, true to her word, had become a regular presence at the center. Today, she was conducting an acting workshop for teenagers, her infectious enthusiasm filling the room. As the day wore on, Tom found himself drawn to the quiet corner where Alex's paintings were on display. He stopped in front of My Guiding Light, lost in thought. "He'd be so proud," said a kind voice next to him. Tom turned to find Mr. Johnson, his eyes misty with emotion. Tom nodded, unable to speak beyond the lump in his throat. "I just wish he could see all this." Mr. Johnson placed an aged hand on Tom's shoulder. "But he does, my son, in every smile, in every brush stroke, in every life touched by this place. Alex lives on." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the windows, Tom caught everyone's attention. The crowd had gathered in the main hall, a sea of faces that represented the diversity and unity of their community. "A year ago," Tom began, his voice steady despite the emotion welling up inside him, "we opened these doors with a dream, the dream of creating a place where art could heal, inspire, and unite people. Today, when I look around, I see that dream realized in ways I could never have imagined." He paused, his eyes scanning the room. "But it's not just about art, it's about love. The love Alex had for this community, the love we have for each other, and the love that continues to grow with each passing day." As Tom's words resounded through the lobby, Daisy went gently to his side, leaning against his leg. He bent down to scratch behind her ears, drawing strength from her presence. "Alex once told me that art was a way of seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary," Tom continued. "I think what we create here goes beyond that. We turn ordinary lives into extraordinary stories, ordinary moments into lasting memories." As the applause filled the air, Tom felt a warmth run through his chest. He looked around at the faces of the people gathered, the children with dreams in their eyes, the adults with a new purpose, the elderly with a rekindled passion. At that moment, Tom realized that they had created more than just an art center. They had woven a tapestry of love, each thread representing a life touched, a heart healed, a spirit uplifted. As the celebration continued into the night, with laughter and music filling the air, Tom knew that Alex's legacy would live on, not just in brushstrokes and canvases, but in the hearts of all those who found a home between those walls. And as Daisy sat faithfully beside him, her eyes reflecting the joy that surrounded them, Tom felt a sense of peace come over him. The journey that had begun with loss had turned into something beautiful, a testament to the enduring power of love, art, and the unbreakable bonds of community.